Scouters, and welcome to my virtual classroom. My name is Justin Scott. Also, you may know me as Socks from Randsburg Scout Reservation. I'm the advisor to the FireCrafter Council. I'm also a 6th grade science teacher. Today, I would like the opportunity to share with you a scouting skill that I use in my classroom to teach science. But it is a skill that I learned in scouting while attending summer camp. This is a skill that you get to learn while you attain the ranks of FireCrafter. FireCrafter is a program that you can earn at summer camp. It advances through 3 ranks: Camper, Woodsman, and FireCrafter. You learn scouting skills that will help you to rank advance, as well as learn different types of scouting skills like leadership and friendship and service to others. One of the most coveted skills to learn in the FireCrafter program is the skill of fire by friction using the bow drill method. Today, we're going to take a look at what components are needed to create fire by friction using the bow drill method and talk a little bit about the science behind it. The first thing that we're going to talk about today with fire by friction are the materials that you need to build your own bow drill set. The first thing that you're going to need is a piece of wood that is going to act as your baseboard or your floorboard, as well as a piece of wood that can act as your spindle. These 2 pieces of wood will then go together to create the magic that happens in fire by friction. You see, the idea of fire by friction is taking an object against another object and applying enough force to create friction. And friction typically will then produce thermal energy. So it's taking the kinetic energy from the movement of the spindle and the force to then transfer it into a thermal energy that is creating heat. And if you can get enough heat produced from that friction, then you're able to produce a small little coal or ember that will then be able to be used to create fire. So, your baseboard and your spindle. I like to make these out of the same type of wood. I will typically use red elm or slippery elm. It's a tree that can be found very commonly in Indiana. But it also is a tree that is a medium type of wood and makes it rather easy to create the fire by friction with. There are tons of other wood out there that you could use to create fire by friction. Poplar is another common wood that is used sometimes to create fire by friction. Cottonwood, a softer wood, is used as well. There are tons of different types of wood, but the one wood that you want to stay away from is any type of wood that is a hardwood. Oaks and ironwood are not woods that work very well. They will work, but they require you to add a lot of force to be able to create the amount of friction needed to create a fire. So stick with a medium or lighter wood. Those are the woods that are going to get you the best results. The next piece of the set that you want to take a look at is your bow. So a bow is the piece that is going to help make this movement happen. By moving the bow back and forth, you are then using that potential energy that you had and turning it into the kinetic energy that's then going to move the spindle, that's going to create the force that's needed and the friction needed to create a fire. To decide the right type of bow, I like something that's really light but really strong. To know that it is strong, I usually set it onto the floor and place my weight on it. And if it can hold my weight, then it's going to be able to hold the tension needed to create the fire in fire by friction. When you talk about bow length, you're looking at something that I like to go from your foot up to your waist. By going from your foot to your waist, you're going to get just about the right size to take care of the full bow length of your stroke. And the reason why you don't want to go much larger than that is because what will happen is it becomes top heavy, and that balance of weight will be difficult to maneuver. If you get a bow that's too short, then you yourself are going to be exerting a lot more energy trying to create that fire. So a bow that's about waist high, light enough that you can easily maneuver, and strong enough that it won't break with the tension is the type of bow you're going to want. When it comes to bowstring, I think the very best type of bowstring you can get is going to be a lawnmower pull cord. It's a very tough cord that doesn't break as easily, but that might be hard to find. Any type of paracord or even a shoelace or a strip of leather could work as your bowstring. And then you would tie your bowstring to your bow and make sure that it is tight enough that your knots are not going to slip. I like to use a clove hitch on either side to help to hold it to that bow. The final piece of your set is going to be your top bearing piece. We in FireCrafter call this the thunderhead. The thunderhead is an old term that's used for top bearing. And it is going to be a piece that is going to be used to apply your force down on to your fire by friction kit. And so what you're going to be looking for is maybe a wood that is harder. So this, for example, is a piece of red oak. And that oak is a very strong wood and won't burn as easily as your softer or medium woods. And so that piece is going to be used to go onto the top of your spindle and push down. You just cut a little divot into your piece of wood that is going to sit at the top of your spindle. And that's going to allow you to have that connection to push down. However, any two pieces of wood that rub together are going to cause some type of friction. So, if you're going to use a piece of wood as your top bearing piece, you're going to need to make sure that you use some type of lubrication for that to work. The best type of lubrication that you can use is probably some type of green leaf. The oils and the moisture in that green leaf will help to lubricate the top piece of your thunderhead so that it reduces the amount of friction that's going to happen. It will also make your spindle spin a lot quicker by reducing the friction at the top. You could also use a bar of soap or anything else that you might be able to put in that top piece to reduce friction. Now, if you really want to get fancy, you could get something like a rock. And if you can find a rock with a natural divot in it, that is really nice because you can use that as a top bearing piece, and it's going to have its natural smoothness from the rock that you won't need to add any additional lubricant to be able to make the fire by friction work. Alright, let's go back to your spindle and your floorboard and talk about the type of size of spindle and floorboard that you'll want. When you're building a floorboard, this one's kind of long because I want the opportunity for this board to last a long time. Let me show you an example. This is a floorboard that I've been using for years, and as you can see, it has multiple holes that I can use many times over again until you've used them out. And so that's why I typically go for a longer board. It also gives me a place to put my foot to help stabilize it, which you'll see a little bit later when we actually do the skill. The spindle. The spindles come in all different sizes and shapes, and it all is based on you. You see, some people think that the skill of fire by friction is all about just going as fast as you can or pushing down as hard as you can. And what it comes down to is an actual science. You take the body structure of the person doing fire by friction and you use that to determine what's going to work best for your fire by friction kit. So, for example, if you have a young man doing fire by friction who is short or smaller and does not have the ability to use the arm to push down as hard and apply the right amount of force, you're going to want a spindle that's going to be taller that he can use and lock under his leg or lock near his leg to be able to apply additional pressure by pushing down on it. Now, looking at the baseboard or the floorboard, I like to use a baseboard or a floorboard that is a 1/2 inch to 1 inch in thickness. I don't like to go much further or deeper or thicker, I guess, in that piece because as your spindle wears down into your floorboard and it gets deeper into that hole, you're going to start to get friction on the side of your spindle. And you don't want that. You want the friction to just happen on the very tip of your spindle. That's where you're going to get all that maximum heat. You want to try to narrow that heat down, or narrow the space down of where that heat is being created. And that's that tip of your spindle. So you don't want it to rub against the sides of your floorboard. Okay, so now you know the different pieces of a fire by friction set. So what we're going to do now is to go outside and give fire by friction a try. When doing fire by friction, you will notice that you don't have to necessarily pump on the set extremely fast. You need a steady and strong pressure of pushing down. That force is what is creating that friction. The bow stroke should be steady and long, using the entire length of the bow. As you continue to pump on your set, you will notice smoke begin to rise from the hole. That smoke is showing you that heat is being created through thermal energy. As that smoke continues to get thicker and thicker, you know that you're almost there to get an ember, then to create fire. Once you have completed and you pull your floorboard away, you should notice that there is a pile of black dust. This is that charred dust from the wood itself. The next step is transferring that ember to some type of tinder, whether it's a nest of dry rope or pine needles work, or dry grass or cedar bark can work. Then you will take that nest and you begin to give it a little bit of oxygen. Soft, long breaths will continue to fuel that ember as it catches the tinder and then turns into flame. Well, there you have it, everyone. A little taste of fire by friction using the bow drill method. I hope you enjoyed today's skill lesson. And remember, if you're at summer camp, make sure you stop by the FireCrafter area and see fire by friction in action. They might even give you an opportunity to try it yourself. Also, while you're at summer camp, make sure you take an opportunity to pick up a camper, woodsman, or FireCrafter card and candidate to be a part of this awesome program and learn some of these phenomenal scouting skills. If you want to learn more about what FireCrafter is, visit www.firecrafter.org for more information. Well, until next time, thanks for taking a moment to step into my virtual classroom, and I'll see you on the other side.